Hello friends, welcome, and today we are going to understand about cognitive flexibility theory. Now this is a conceptual model for designing learning environments based on cognitive learning theory, which we studied very recently. This theory focuses on learning in complex and ill-structured domains like which symbolize real life because it is quite complex. In fact, we say that currently we are living in a VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Uh, there have been some educationist researchers like Spiro and Zink. They defined that the cognitive flexibility is the ability to adaptively reassemble diverse elements of knowledge to fit the particular need of a given understanding or problem solving situation. This theory represents an integration of learning, mental representation, and instruction. The instruction designed using cognitive flexibility theory prevents oversimplifying instructions. And we do this by providing practical oriented real life situation cases, multiple representations of the content in order to enhance transfer, and by facilitating the knowledge construction by the learners. The main principles of cognitive flexibility theory are oversimplification of instruction should be avoided, subject content must be presented in multiple ways to enhance learning, case-based instruction should be given more importance, and this is more beneficial than instruction based on a single example or case. Then we need to provide real-world examples or phenomena because they serve better for knowledge construction. Purpose of instruction should be the construction of knowledge and not the transmission of knowledge. Different constructs of knowledge must be interrelated instead of being isolated. And this theory has been found effective in advanced knowledge creation. Now, there has been a very famous Professor Rand Spiro. He is professor of education psychology and education technology. And his research concerns new models of learning with technology to promote what are often called 21st century skills, especially the ability to deal with novelty in an increasingly complex and rapidly changing world. Now, Spiro's theory applied in his research is cognitive flexibility theory, which provides a highly specified approach to the use of technology for the development of the ability to respond adaptively to new real-world situations instead of relying on pre-stored templates in the memory. And Professor Spiro research areas have been like deep and open learning on the web, instructional hypermedia systems to promote the attainment of high proficiency learning goals, knowledge acquisition in complex subject areas, new literacies, and new forms of reading comprehension in the online world. Also, case-based learning with technology for independent knowledge application, which is in the non-routine situations in the professions, for example, teaching or medicine, and expertise and acceleration in the development of expertise, assessment of 21st century skills, and learning in areas of grand social challenge, for example, climate challenge. Now, let us see how learning happens in a complex and complicated world. We see messy complexity everywhere in medicine, in engineering, in teaching. And this complexity is an inevitable part of advanced knowledge. Teaching that involves memorization and a superficial familiarity with general concepts is enough. But what about the learning that can't prepare us for every contingency, that does not lend itself to the principles that can be applied in every instance? It is in this domain of ill-structured complexity and advanced knowledge that Professor Spiro has pioneered cognitive flexibility theory. And along with his colleagues, he had sought to refashion teaching and learning for an ever changing and complex world. And here, the focus is on preparing people so that they can select, adapt, and combine knowledge and experience in new ways to deal with situations that are different than the ones they have encountered before. It is the flexible application of knowledge in the new context that should concern us. There are always new contexts, and you just can rely on old templates. No, cognitive security is what people want. It doesn't work in the modern world of work and life. With cognitive flexibility, we have a great cause and case for a different kind of instruction. Among the tenets of this new approach are that instruction needs to provide students multiple representations of content. It should be case-based and emphasize knowledge construction and not the transmission of information. And then the knowledge sources should be highly interconnected. Now, application of these principles will help people to use knowledge in new ways to suit the purposes of different situations. We have noted that some of the most complex and demanding domains of knowledge and learning are not preparing students for some specific kind of learning and knowledge application. If we take the case of medical education, for instance, and we find that doctors tend to put patients in diagnostic boxes and treat everyone who suffers from symptoms within that box in the same way. The reality is that treatment is complex and ill-structured. Everyone has different degrees of illness, tolerance for pain. Moreover, different lifestyles and jobs may have an effect on the ideal treatment. Such practices and tendencies lead to the establishment of routines. However, when the world doesn't follow a steady and predictable routine, and that's where we are not getting people ready. In domains such as history, where multiple perspectives and even competing contexts and facts are often present, cognitive flexibility can allow students to gain a deeper understanding. In so many different places, we are finding that the old, linear, more mechanistic, and single perspective approaches do not work. We need interconnected knowledge and knowledge in context. We need to be able to apply multiple perspectives, multiple knowledge sources, multiple points of views, and that's what the flexibility we try to achieve. With the application of modern technologies, it turns out that the technology like the World Wide Web, CD-ROMs, digital video, digital media, this modern technology is uniquely suited to this type of learning. Technologists and educationists, they have developed electronic learning environments which allow students to get away from the module by module approach and use the new media to easily access different cases and gain multiple perspectives, popularly known as random access instruction. Now, as on the internet, you can jump from here to there and look at information in varying contexts of new or previous knowledge, thereby demonstrating the subtleties and nuances that experts appreciate. The goal is to accelerate the acquisition of experience so people are better prepared to apply their knowledge. It is very important that the cognitive flexibility must be nurtured early in the learning process. And learning shouldn't begin with massively complexity because it leads to confusion that will overwhelm and discourage learners. But by starting small, students can avoid oversimplification and learn the underlying habits of mind necessary to acquire complex knowledge. Each mini case is a microcosm of the larger world of practice, and with its complexities represented initially in the cognitively manageable proportions. Teaching is the most complex of the processes. Showing students a minute-long digital video clip of a teacher teaching a lesson, for instance, allows them to focus on only two of the three complex issues. They can then build up the longer clips as they learn new perspectives on teaching, knowing that they have a more secure foundation that includes ways of looking for and understanding complexity. The cognitive flexibility theory focuses on the nature of learning in the complex and ill-structured domains. Spiro and Zhang, they have been very famous. Their work is very popular and important in this field on cognitive sciences. And they state that by cognitive flexibility, we mean the ability to spontaneously restructure one's knowledge in many ways in adaptive response to radically changing situational demands. This is a function of both the way knowledge is represented, for example, along multiple, rather single conceptual dimensions, and the processes that operate on those mental representations, for example, processes of schema assembly rather than intact schema retrieval. The theory is largely concerned with transfer of knowledge and skills beyond their initial learning situation. And for this reason, emphasis is placed on the presentation of information from multiple perspectives and use of the many case studies that present diverse examples. The theory also asserts that effective learning is context dependent, so instruction needs to be very specific. In addition, the theory stresses the importance of constructed knowledge. Learners must be given an opportunity to develop their own representations of information in order to properly learn. Cognitive load flexibility theory builds upon other constructivist theories. For example, the constructivist subsumption, genetic epistemology, and it is related to the work of symbol systems in terms of media and learning instruction. So let us have a brief understanding of these. For example, constructivist theory, and Jerome Brumer has been one of the major influential figure for this field. A major theme in the theoretical framework of Bruner is that learning is an active process in which the learners construct new ideas or concepts based upon their current or past knowledge. The learners select and transforms information, constructs hypotheses, makes decisions, relying on a cognitive structure to do so. And the cognitive structure, that is, it can be schema, mental models, these provide meaning and organization to experiences and allows the individual to go beyond the information given. And as far as instruction is concerned, the instructor should try and encourage students to discover principles by themselves. The instructor and students should engage in an active dialogue, that is Socratic learning. The task of the instructor is to translate information to be learned into a format appropriate to the learner's current state of understanding. Curriculum should be organized in a spiral manner so that the student continually builds upon what they have already learned. The second is subsumption theory, which was propounded by David Osbel. This theory is concerned with how individuals learn large amount of meaningful material from verbal or textual presentations in a school setting. And this is in contrast with the theories developed in the context of lab experiments. Here in subsumption theory, learning is based upon the kinds of superordinate, representational, and combinatorial processes which occur during the reception of information. A primary process in learning is subsumption, in which new material is related to the relevant ideas in the existing cognitive structure on a substantive, non-verbatim basis. Cognitive structures represent the residue of all learning experiences. And forgetting occurs because certain details get integrated and lost there on the way, or they lose their individual identity. The another theory is genetic epistemology, which was proposed by Jean Piaget, and he conducted a program of naturalistic research, which perhaps spanned over 6 decades, that has profoundly affected our understanding of the child development. Piaget called his general theoretical framework genetic epistemology because he was primarily interested in how knowledge developed in human organisms. Piaget had a background in both biology and philosophy, and concepts from both these disciplines influences his theories and research of child development. Let us understand the theory proposed by Gabriel Salomon, known as symbol systems. The symbol systems theory is intended to explain the effects of media on learning. And here, the symbol systems of media affect the acquisition of knowledge in a number of ways. First, they highlight different aspects of content. Second, they vary with the respect to ease of recording. Third, specific coding elements can save the learners from different mental elaborations by overtly supplanting or short-circuiting specific elaboration. Then, the symbol systems differ with respect to how much processing is demanded or allowed. And then, the symbol systems differ with respect to the kind of mental processes they call on for recording and elaboration. Therefore, symbol systems partly determine who will acquire how much knowledge from what kind of messages. Let us see some of the application areas of cognitive flexibility theory. And one of them is that the knowledge is context development. Knowledge cannot be perceived out of context. It is the context that allows learners to see any possibility and any possible relationships between various components of the subject matter presented. In addition, learning activities in any educational setting should be able to provide several different representations of the same instructional objectives in different contexts. So, practically speaking, the cognitive flexibility theory suggests that by doing so, learners have the opportunity to better understand a specific concept or idea because its practical application is clear to them. This is very important, especially for adult learners who usually want to know not only what, that is new information, but also why they have learned something, as well as how to apply it in real settings. Then we focus here is the application that knowledge is interconnected. In order for the learner to grasp what is being taught, the knowledge sources that are used should be interconnected rather than separated and compartmentalized. In other words, this means that knowledge should never be isolated from what the learners already know, far from previous experience. Applied to e-learning course design, the instructional designers need to take into account learners' previous knowledge on the subject and try to find ways to connect the new pieces of information which is presented to learners' current frame of reference. So, in this theory, we examined that what is cognitive flexibility theory and how various sub-theories of it affect, and the application areas that the knowledge is context-based and the knowledge should be interconnected. Thank you so much.